The following program contains adult language, poor taste in jokes, racial slurs, political slurs, slants, and all sorts of things that, if you are sensitive and have a delicate constitution, you should probably go watch Teletubbies. You were warned.
Hey kids, welcome back to Roto Talk.
Hey kids, welcome back. Let's hope today is a better day. Yesterday I started off okay and then went south of cheese pretty quick. So, last thing we did is we sealed and glued in our brace, which turned out really nice. It looks good. And we also marked where our rudder push rod is going out. And I did take a small pilot and drilled it through. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take some of our little bellows here. Now with these things, like I said in every video I've ever done, they come with like this powder, which is dye release for when they do the rubber molding. Spray that with a little bit of alcohol before you do this gig, okay? You want at least this part here fairly dust-free because we're going to CA glue that sucker in there, okay? Then, I already drilled my pilot hole. So you can see, remember, brass screw down. That's where my rudder is going to go in this case. Might make it a little bit higher, whatever. It's okay. It doesn't really matter. It's going to be a pretty long blade down, but it'll work out pretty good. So, if you want to be super sure, as you should be before you go hacking into this stuff. Now, like I said, follow the directions in the manual.
Shocking.
When in doubt, read. Okay, if you have questions, read. Okay, or ask me, and I can tell you the proper way to do it. I've built a lot of these, and there's a way I like to do it, and I don't necessarily, because I know how I like them to run, and everybody's different, but my V's run pretty good. They track really well, and they're fast. So you know, if the recipe works, don't ruin the cookie. All right, so let's, just for measure, we're going to throw these on because I will lose them inevitably. So, beautiful day out. It's gloomy, but it's 55 out. I should have my ass down there at the water running, but I want to get this done. I want to get our tunnel hole started. Alright, so, give or take a line up here. Yeah, that's fairly deep. And I'll probably end up cutting this rudder down, but I don't need it way up here. Okay, I'm using a pretty shallow radio box. Alright, remember we put the radio box in there yesterday and we lined up our push rod with that. It's okay, I'm used to cutting rudders. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take our taper bit and we're going to drill until it's undersize of that a little bit. Now remember when you use a taper step bit, the outside, or the drill side, is always going to be wider than the inside. Okay, remember that. That looks like that'll work. Alright. Then, you can take a little bit, we're going to sand this down, because that edge looks like a bag of ass. But we're not gluing anything in right now anyway. Alright, so matter of fact, how we put this in, take yourself some needle nose pliers. Okay, if you want. Maybe. Come on, put some hair around it. Maybe I'll find it. Okay. Damn, dude. Alright. And then we just pull it through. Okay. And then when you pull it through, pull it all the way to here. Put some CA glue on there and then pop it in. Now, I'm not putting this in because I still have to clear coat my stuff. So I'm not worrying about these bellows yet. I'm going to do that with final assembly. But that's how you do it. It's very, very simple. Alright, so next thing you're going to do, now that we've got that pilot hole drilled, we're going to line up our rudder. Okay, I'm actually going to make it a little bit high, like right there. And I'm going to drill my first drill hole. Okay, line it up by eye, drill your first drill, you drill your first hole, stick a bolt through it. Then after that, exact same thing we did yesterday. Take that digital level, level the hull, make it 90 here, or 0, and then make sure that the rudder is exactly 0 as well. Or if you're putting the scale on the side, 90. But you know what I mean? You want that thing totally perpendicular to the ride surface. If not, it will always have a kick to it. It will always turn on its own. You'll have to force your trim. And then, like I said yesterday in the other build video, it's always going to slow you down. Anytime you have to add artificial trim or even artificial input, it's always going to slow you down. Okay? So, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I kind of showed you how to do that with the Stinger. Actually, I did show you. And I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera. It's not real tough to do. So we're going to drill the first hole. We're going to line it up. And then we're going to slam a bolt in there. Then we're going to level it real close, take a pencil, and we're going to mark one of the other holes, preferably a diagonal. We're going to mark it, drill it, double check it. If it needs to adjust a little bit, wobble that hole out, give yourself some play. This thing's got to be perfectly straight, okay? And we'll be right back. So what I did, I'm going to show you again anyway. I took my digital level, I put it on the transom, and I zero it. Don't trust that your boat's level. I zeroed it, then I stick it on the rudder bracket, and I zero it, the bracket there. So 1/10 of a degree, which, negligible. All right? So that's how you want to do it. And then after you drill your next hole, make sure you check it again. Be right back. Okie dokie. So there we go. Now, your rudder will probably be around here, unless you're building it just like mine. Mine is very low. I'm going to be chopping my rudder off right about there. The more rudder you have in the water below the boat, the more, point of attack you have. Like, it's never going to skip, all right? If you only have a little bit of rudder in the water and you hit tiny waves and you're in a turn, what'll happen is your rudder will come out, you'll go crazy in the air, you'll reconnect with the water, you'll hit, and you'll flip, okay? It's all in what you like, all right? I'm going to chop mine off just because I have to put mine low to begin with. That's way too much. The more rudder you have, the more drag you have. And I want this to be a reasonably fast boat, so I'll be cutting this rudder off and polishing it up. Yours probably you won't have to do it if you build it the right way, according to the manual. But I'd rather have too much rudder in and sacrifice a mile an hour or two than not have enough. Now, if you're always going to be running on a real pristine pond or something like that, don't worry about it. Keep that rudder only that much in the water, you'll be totally fine. All right, but again, it's an experimental thing. If you want to experiment with it, you can buy just the rudder blades, I believe. And then you just cut off little bits and bobs at a time. Slice it off at a time and just see what you like. I guess that's the best way. Now, my method of doing trim tabs, and I'm using the cheapo trim tabs. Sorry, Joe. But these are the ones from ZippKits. They work perfectly great. Stainless steel. Polished on one side, not on the other. Interesting. Never really noticed that before. What I do, there is a measurement. If you follow the manual, you'll figure out how to do that. What I do, because I like the way my boats run, this is how I set it up. I turn my rudder all the way to the right. And let's see, are we going to have enough there? Nah, not all the way. We don't need to go that far. About 3/4 of the way there. Probably. I'm never going to turn right harder than that. Again, this is an experience thing. So, what you do, take yourself a nice, good flat edge. Okay, something like this. And make sure you've got this where you want it. I'm going to put it right there. I'm just going to mark one of the holes. That's it, just one. The trick to this is you want these to be a millimeter at least above the bottom of the boat. At least, I would say 2 to 3, to be quite honest. Better to be too high and to really have to force them down than to be so low you can never get them out. Okay? So you can see where I made that mark. That's the outside hole. All right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise that up, though. You don't want to screw in too close to the bottom. You want to drill that hole like right here because you won't be able to get the nut on the back. So what I'm going to do then, just by looking at that's totally flush. I'm going to drill that hole right above that line. Okay, I am guesstimating. It will be fine. If you want to measure, that's great. Get yourself a set of these off Amazon. All right, dial calipers and digital. I don't even have the battery in mine, and then use the depth end if you need to, or use a millimeter scale. Use a guitar pick. That's a good one because I'm a guitar player. So you can use a 2 millimeter thick guitar pick, and that's how you know it's 2 mil from the bottom. So you want this plate, like if my hand's the bottom of the boat, you want this up at 2 millimeters above, at least. Okay, because you may not need trim tabs. It just depends on what you're running, how your center of gravity is, how the boat's riding in the water, all that scary stuff.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Okay, so take it with a grain of salt, all right? But again, you'll see, I'm just going to simply do this. I drill my first hole, all right? And then take one of your brackets. Brackets are going to go like this. So your build of it's going to look like that. The screw's going to go in there. Again, watch the Vbox build. I think I go a lot more in depth with with these. All right. So I'm going to take this with the slow ass drill. Put this in. Now, how I do this is those are slotted. Okay, see how the screws are slotted, the holes are slotted? I will actually raise it all the way up on that first hole I drilled, all the way. And then I make sure it's the same height on this side. Over here off the bottom, I don't know if you guys can see that. It's about 2 mil up. And then I drill that hole so it's all the way at the top. Bada bing, you're done. Okay, so when I'm drilling the holes, what I use for a gauge, take this back out. This is why you do all this shit before you paint your boat. That way if you screw up and you have to patch a hole. But we're screwed. We're not painting our boat. We're just putting some goose killing decals on it and throwing her in a lake. I'll hold this all the way up. Boom. Don't worry about leveling it and all that crap. Measure it from the bottom, guesstimate the gap, or measure it exactly, drill your next hole, so on and so forth. Do the exact same thing for the other side. Now, for the other side, what you're going to do, once this side is on the way you want it, which mine is, I just need to drill that hole, you want to measure this distance right here from the outer edge in, or from the center up, but it's easier to do it this way. And then make this one the exact same depth down. Make yourself a line, put it in. Okay? Very, very simple. Let me throw this other screw in. Be right back. One more thing I forgot to tell you, and I'm going to show you how I measure this out. I got this one mounted up. It's exactly even on both ends down to the bottom. I have it popped all the way up and screwed in. Now, this kit, when you buy turn fins like this, whether they're from Joe or whoever, okay, they go like that, screws go in. Now, you get screws like this, they're cap head, and you get screws like this that are button head. Now, let me save you a headache from hell.
Who's there?
All right, what I want you to do, they're the same thread length and size. Exact same, okay? What I want you to do is use the button head to put them into the boat and use the hex head to put in for the adjustment for the pallets, okay? Reason being, button heads suck. They should be outlawed. They're crap. They're scary. They're awful, all right? And what happens is when these things get seized up or whatever the case may be, button heads strip out real easy. Cap screws don't. Well, how often are you going to be taking your trim tabs off your boat? Very, very seldom, okay? But how often are you going to adjust your trim tabs? Could be every time you race or every time you run. You never know. So put the button heads that strip easy through here to hold it into the boat. or just shit can them and get yourself some hexes. Now, so what we're going to do to measure this out, zoom in here, take our dial calipers, and I measure to the plate. About that, lost my camera. So take my dial calipers and I measure from the plate side. Okay, see this little screw here? That's a lock. Now do this any way you want. It's just how I do it. Doesn't mean it's right, it just means it's easy. Alright, put it on the edge of that metal. And I lock it. I don't even care what the distance is. Okay, it's 46 mil. Yip-de-doo. I don't care. What I do now is I just take this and I mark it. There. Done. So, now what we do, take our plate, this outer edge goes right against that mark, 2 mil up. Don't even worry about the inside hole. Just do that hole. And then once you get this one in, do the exact same method we did over there. Make sure it's even off the bottom, the same amount. Let's say 3 mil, 2 mil. Then drill your hole, bada bing. Very, very simple. I don't measure it at all. I just use this, and it works great. So use anything you want. Take a toothpick, stick it in there, mark the toothpick, mark it on the other side. Whatever. Go cheap. It doesn't matter to me. So as long as it's the same distance. Otherwise, it gets hairy. I mean, if it's off a little bit, it really doesn't affect it. You just might have to adjust your trim tabs a little funky, that's all. Not a big deal. So I'm going to mount this up. Be right back. All right, grab your rotor twisters. Now, got the other blade on. Everybody's happy, copacetic. So we should be able to measure, give or take. Double check yourself. Again, not the space shuttle. Outer edge. Hang on. Sorry, smoking hot wife interruption. That was funny. We got this package. Today's Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day to you guys. Valendude's Day. And my smoking hot wife's mom, my mother-in-law, who's pretty cool, she sent us from Ohio, she sent us a present, like a big FedEx thing. And once the smoking hot wife got home from school, picking up the kids, you know, I'm out here shooting this video for you guys, and she opens the damn thing without me, which is not cool, I must say. And doing the turn fits. No, I don't care, you know. And she comes out just a second ago, and she says, "Oh, I got what, I opened the present for Mom." I said, "Oh, yeah, what was it?" "We got a milk frother?" Whatever the fuck it... Yeah, milk frother, I guess, for espressos or something. And what was the other thing? An engraved cutting board with our names on it. It's like, and thank you, Nana. It's just, and I looked at her, she's laughing, and you know, my wife loves that all. I said, "Oh, cool. Did I get anything?" You know, she goes, "Yes, I'll make you espresso." So we got the extra large turn fins here. Little overkill. You can get away with mediums. I found mediums work just pretty well. They don't grab as quick. This is going to be a lot more responsive. That's okay. It's goose killer. We want it to be that way. Your chamfered edge goes towards the outside of the boat. So this is the left side, or port. This is starboard. Chamfered edge, outside. Okay? So what you do, we're going to take nuts and bolts and doodads out. Ah, shit. There goes one. See, that's why I buy spares. That's why I have big old bolt kits. Love them. I buy my bolt kits constantly. So, our bracket, man, it's going to go on the boat like me. We're going to do the right-hand side first. Now, if you're only going to be racing, or you're on a small lake like mine, you might only want to put on a right-hand fin. You don't need both if you're planning on racing this. Now, the only way you're racing this boat, kiddos, is if you are racing a friend, because this is not a legal boat in any class, because this is a V-hull, to my knowledge, correct me guys if I'm wrong, I'm not a racer, but Vbox is the only legal cracker. This is a fun boat, and they are fun. They're stupid fun. I love these things. Alright, so if you wanted to turn left well 2, put the left one on 2. Does that make sense? And put it on the exact same way. Rinse and repeat. If you're only going to be like, my leg's pretty... I mean, I turn left on mine too with certain boats, like skiffs and these crackers and, yeah, that's about it. Hydroplanes, thunders, all those turn right only. But I have been known to put left-hand turn fins on crackers. I doubt I will with this one. So this is really, really simple to do. All you want to do, you want this pig as far to the outside as you can, within reason. Keep in mind of your nuts, guys, all right? Because if you put the hole right there, you're not going to be able to get the nut on the inside. So bring it in a little bit. You want as far out, and in my opinion, not quite as... I like mine a little high. I like my boat to be really flying. So, you know, the lower it is, the quicker it's going to grab. The higher it is, but you also have height adjustment too, so it's almost irrelevant. But what we're going to do is we're going to put this nut or this bolt in first, this hole here. Just put it wherever you want, okay? As far out as you can within reason. So I'm going to put mine about there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put our digital level on top of the boat. We're just going to zero it. I'm sorry, on the bottom. Oof, don't listen to that. On the bottom of the boat, upside down, we're going to zero that. And then we're going to make sure this dude here, we're going to adjust it till it's 90 perfectly. Okay, so let me slap this screw in, all that good noise, and we'll be right back. I'll show you how to do that. All right, 2 seconds later, we got one bolt in. Let's see it just like that. Now, what you do is take your digital level, and you probably can't see it in the camera. We're going to zero it out. Then we're going to put it on the turn fin. We're going to make this pig 90. Oops, wrong way, dude. You want this damn close. Okay? And that is 90 degrees to the bottom. See, now mine, I gotta fix that. Mine are really far out. A lot of people will line them up at 90 here. I like mine far out because what it does, when your boat's up on hike, okay, it's up on plane, if you will, okay, the outer edges are kind of lost. They're not, you know, you're riding kind of on the middle right here, all right? So if you're planing properly, right now, this turn fin shouldn't even be touching the water, barely, even almost full down, okay? So what that means is, I mean, it depends again on your style of running, your style of racing, if you race. What that means is you'll almost have to, when you first start turning at full speed, it's going to turn very vaguely. And then if you drop your trigger a little bit, it'll grab and it'll come in. If you put your turn fin here, say, you're going to be riding in the water much more, all right? And then your turning is going to be much more sensitive. That's good and bad. When you're doing 50, 60 miles an hour in water and you're turning sensitive, it's a bad day at the zoo sometimes on something like this. Hydroplanes, yes, that's a different devil. I would recommend, if it were me, start out wide and bring in. You know, your first boat, you know, if you have an extra hole in your boat, fine. What I do with that, like say you want to move this next week, you run it, I don't love it. Remember, just drop your trigger, slow down a little bit, turn again, it'll dig. If you don't like it out that far, what you can do, take these bolts out, move it in an inch, put it back in, and the hole that you can still see, stick a bolt in it. You don't even have to patch it. Just stick a bolt in it. Nobody will ever even notice. All right, so I'm going to put a screw in right there. I'm going to make sure in final assembly that that's a nice square 90 when I tighten it up. Right now it's about a half or a tenth of a degree off. I don't care. I'm taking everything off, but it's close enough to the point where I know I can really give it the binder and it'll work. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this out, and then we're going to I'm not going to put on the left one. If you want to put on the left one, make it identical. Make it the same distance out, almost like the same procedure we used for these, only on the other side. That's all you got to do. Rinse and repeat. And then we're going to put in our water ports, then our radio box, and that'll be it for today. Be right back. Key on water ports. Oh, that's the other thing. We got to drill holes in the back for our lines to come through. That's fine. We're going to put the radio box in first. So, water ports. I order extra large, I think, from Joe, if it's a gas boat, period. End of story. Black I like better, but whatever. Doesn't matter at the end of the day. Either does this stupid little rubber O-ring, to be quite honest with you. See, there's an O-ring there. I usually don't put mine on. Now, this is not... I can't remember if these are from Joe or not, so forgive me, Joe, if you're watching. I get 99% of my stuff from him. Unless I'm doing an electric build, sometimes I order from somebody else, but not hulls. I order my stuff from him, but if I'm already making an order from somewhere else, I save on shipping and just order everything. But 99% is from Zip, obviously. But I like the ones better. This one, you can see the T slot in there. I like the ones better that have the octagonal cutout. It's broached, and you can stick an Allen wrench in the hole and use that for your turning. That's what I prefer. Now, sometimes you guys have seen me on the boats I go fancier with. I might put the outputs here and here. Now, the problem with that's nice because they're easy to see. It looks a little cooler. My boats, I don't use clutches, so they're always moving forward. I don't have to worry about it splashing into the boat or anything like that. The problem with that, though, is more weight and more waste because you're adding a lot more silicon tubing for your outputs because you have to run from your rudder all the way up, all the way back, from your rudder all the way up to the header, all the way back. Whereas in this case, since this is a beater boat, we're just going to literally put them straight out the side of the motor. So all I'm going to do is take that spade bit, or the taper bit. You can use a real drill bit if you want to. It doesn't matter. I'm going to use that spade bit, and I'm just going to put these in. A lot of times what I do, to be quite honest, I don't even use the nuts. I just under drill them a touch, so you almost have to thread them in. It's up to you. Because if you ever want to take these out, like say you're going to build a new boat and you want to gut this one, it's actually easier to not use the nut, obviously, because you're going to have to Loctite it, and it's a real bitch. You got to get a wrench under there and everything. I just under drilled a little bit, threaded it. It's already got threads. It's soft wood, cuts right into it, right? And that's just how I do it. There's really not a lot of science to this. Just make sure your holes are spaced far enough apart that you can fit them both in. Don't drill the holes like that. That'd be a bad day to do, right? So you want to, common sense. It's not real hard. So I'm going to go ahead and drill these in. I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Be right back. Right, so this is literally all I do. I took a pilot drill bit, and I just drilled in. I took my taper bit, and I drilled those in, and that's it. Now what I will do, my bit's getting a little dull, so I need to sand that off. I got to do that with all this stuff too. I'm not going to thread these all the way in. You get the idea. Okay? Because we're not putting in lines right now. We're going to wait till final assembly for lines. And you would want to do the same thing with the back. Now, you can do your inputs, meaning your input from the rudder, your two lines coming in multiple ways. You can use a spade. I don't know what you call it, but it's like a collar that you can press into the boat and spade it in. A nice little... Let me find actually a couple of different ways. First way is one of these. This is a bulkhead fitting. Now what you can do, if you want to get fancy about this... Now, this one's not a good example, but they make these where this goes into the bulkhead, hose goes on one side, hose goes on the other side. You could do it that way. Nice, clean look. Or I actually use these things. These actually come with, when you buy the pro version of these bellows for radio boxes, these come with them, and I never use them for that. And what I do is I thread these into the boat, and I run the hose through them just because it looks cool. If I can find another one, that's probably what we're going to do. And there's another one that's made for it. It's just a chrome collar, aluminum collar that looks pretty cool. And here's another thing I'm just going to go over real quick because I don't think I ever have. This is interesting. I got like 5 of these in my magic drawer. I never use them. This is called a baler, an auto baler. Okay, what this does, you drill a hole in the boat in the transom, lowest point preferably, like, let's just say right there. Something like that. You've got a ball in here. Now, when I was a little kid, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's a little ball in here, and there's an O-ring right there. This is the boat side. Okay, this is sitting in the water. if the boat stops, say you have a clutch, or you stall, the boat stops, the water pressure from the outside comes in. Remember, this is on the outside of the boat. Water pressure comes in, pushes that ball up against that O-ring, nothing comes in. But as soon as you accelerate, this ball relaxes, there's no pressure on this side, it comes out, and water drains out of this and drains your boat while you're moving forward. They work. They really do. I have a drawer full. I don't even know why I don't use them, really, but I don't know. Pretty cool. They're maybe $5-10 a piece, and they work well. One thing I do recommend you do, every season, spray it with some WD-40, keep that O-ring malleable. Now, they do come up, this one comes apart, so you can actually lube it and clean it, and there's the ball. See that? Now, when I was a little kid, I was raised on a lake, as you guys know, the lake across the street. And we had sailboats. I learned how to sail at age of 7, maybe, something like that, maybe younger. And my dad had a Hobie, 16-foot Hobie, tequila sunrise sail, and I had a sunfish, because I'm a little kid. And my sunfish had an auto bailer. It was, in the cockpit where you put your feet, there's like this little plug. You'd pull it up, and it was the exact same principle. Water pressure from below, put up a rubber ball, sealed it, and then when you're moving forward, it drained your boat. Works really well. So, not part of the video really, per se, but let's grab some line, and I'll show you these. These things are supposed to have those boots on them, but they fit your silicone really good for your water lines. So you might use these. They look good, and you can do it any way you want. You can drive them through here and have them, which is usually, sometimes what I do, but I have a lot of room up here. We might just put them in the back. I haven't decided yet. Line it up any way you want. If you've got something like this, it looks better, but it just adds weight. But if you're going for a pretty boat, most people that build boats want it to look really, really nice. In my case, I've got so many of these freaking crackers that this one's just going to be a fun basher. And it'll probably end up being one of my favorite boats because it's a fun basher. But whatever, yeah, so go see if I can dig up. I'm sure I got these in spades, I'm sure. And I'll go ahead and drill those out. Exact same principle. I'll use a taper bit. I'll just thread them in. Take a wide blade, flat blade screwdriver, thread them in. And that's it. Now we are ready for the radio box after that. So let me go ahead and dump these holes in real quick. Let me see if I can find another one of these, and we'll be right back. We are back. All right, so last step for today. We're going to try this. It's basically clear silicone. I got it at the hardware store, no big deal. I usually use Gorilla Glue. It's all the same stuff. The biggest thing you want to look at is drying time, maybe, cure time. But if it's silicone, it's all waterproof. I prefer clear just because, if you're nasty, messy like I am, you don't have to worry as much about seeing it. All right. So, first thing you need to do. Now, this is if you don't know how to operate a glue gun or a caulking gun, then you got bigger problems. You probably shouldn't be building a boat. So, not the hardest thing in the world. I'm going to put this tip back on. This is an old cheap $3 jobby off Amazon or Ace Hardware. We're just going to cut that. Done. All right. Oh, yeah, by the way, that's where my inlets are going to go. So nice short tubing. Shoop, shoop, right there. Going in. Okay. So, radio box. This is a radio box already out of another boat. This is out of the Crazy Cracker. Now, this I don't care about. I have tons of 440 rods. I don't care. But I don't really want to replace my throttle linkage if I don't have to. Oh, I probably should orb that out a little bit. I want this to be about there. That's where it worked in the green one. It's going to work great in this one. It's the same damn boat, so I'm not worried about it. But again, center of gravity in the V's, it's not quite as anal as a hydroplane. Not even close, to be honest. Hydroplanes are so much more sensitive to center of gravity, and we'll build a couple on the channel. We might build a Thunderboat. We're probably going to build a Backlash Gen 3 And we're also going to build the tunnel hulls, which both have CG issues. So, but this boat, yes, it's easy. We can use our. We have, look at how much room. We camp a family of 5 in this fucking thing. It'd be fine. We can move our gas tank if it's off. Hydroplanes, tunnel hulls, things like that. There ain't no room. All right, so we have to be careful about that. But all I care about in this one is just making sure that I don't have to cut a new cable because it doesn't cost me $18. I don't feel like blowing. No big deal. But before I do that, I am going to burrow out. I forgot. I always have to do that. I have to take my Dremel with a sanding drum and burn out a little bit of a hole here. Not a hole, but recess it out. So if I can find a sanding drum that isn't a bag of ass. There we go. I'll just do this on video here. Why not? I'm feeling better today. So, nothing fancy. This is if you're using my radio box. If you're not using my radio box, you don't have to do this. Okay? It needs new sandpaper. Yep, that went south quick, didn't it? That sandpaper shot. Oh, well, that's fine. It's probably good enough. And it is. It'll be fine. It's not too much of a wrench. All right, so then what you want to do, my wife's OCD. She cleans her ass off, so she goes through vacuums left and right. So all of her old little vacuums I keep out in the garage. Faster than doing the shop vac. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to loosen this set screw. Touch. And I'm literally going to attach it, I think, to the engine. That way I can't foul this up. Now, I've got extra of these cables. You know, you screw the pooch. No big deal. That's where it's going to go, basically. Bada bing, bada boom. Easy. All right? And I can still bore that out if I want to a little bit later. No big deal. And I'm going to put a boot in here. We'll do that in final assembly because you want your radio box tight. Clean, watertight. A little bit of play there. You almost always do. Now, if you didn't have play there, say you're doing this on precision, like a fiberglass boat, we can mark this, whatever, okay? All right. And if you didn't have any, oh, it came off. If you didn't have any play, just put a bead there and a bead there, squish it down. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a 5-pound weight, we're going to take our silicone, and I'm going to put a bead there, a bead there. But the other thing I'm going to do, I told you yesterday I had a trick about what I do with these Vboxes. I will actually use silicone right along here. Not so much for keeping water out, that's not the issue. It's for anti-vibration of this tube. These boats vibrate like crazy, so it just helps. The epoxy is more of a rigid bind. All right, so putting that silicone in there is going to give it a little bit of extra oomph. All right, so I'm just going to do. Okay, just nothing fancy. We're not doing a ton. All right. I'm just going to use a brush, if you're all girly about it. Doesn't matter. Nobody's going to see this. Don't use a ton. This is just for a little bit of, see. I can tell. Ooh, hey, that actually smells like rubber cement. This might be some good shit.
Take drugs, Danny? Every day. Good.
All right, we're just going to leave it like that for now. You can feather it in with a brush if you really want to. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bead here. You do not need a ton. That is something I learned, especially the other day when I cut these things out and want to put them in another boat. I learned real quick. They're in there with this stuff. Now this stuff's a little bit different. I've never used this before. So we're going to take, where'd my Allen go? Fucking nose. There it is. All right. I want this to be back on here, just so I don't goof anything up. If you don't, there's only two people that don't make mistakes building boats. Two types, okay? People that don't build boats, and people that do make mistakes and just lie about it. Okay, so I'm going to put that there. Now I'm going to push the box over to one side. Now I'm going to push it back over to this side. And that is it. Do not need a ton, I promise. Okay, and I'm going to kind of make it in the middle. Does it have to be perfectly in the middle? Nope. And then I'm just going to smear it with my finger. Ah, my rag. Get the excess off. Same thing with the other side. Now, you don't have to use that crap I just showed you. Just go to Lowe's, wherever. Buy yourself a bottle of clear, or a tube of clear silicone. That's all you need. Like this crap you use in your bathroom. That's all it is. It's enough to really hold that radio box tight, and it'll handle all your throttle, all your turns. You will not pop it out. But if you need to get it out, you can take a razor blade, cut down there, pop it out. Works great. Now, I'm going to put some weight on there. I'm going to put 10 pounds on. Just like that. And we're going to let her cook. Clean this up a little bit. Now, a lot of people might be thinking, oh, that radio box is too far forward. Look at all that room you got. Yep. But, difference being, a lot of people run their gas bags up here. I actually run mine back here. So I've already figured out my center of gravity. Mine work really, really well. They're super fast. And they handle awesome. So I'm not changing my recipe. Don't want to ruin the cookie. Okay? And that is it. So then what we're going to do, tomorrow morning I'll come out here. I'll give this thing a quick sand. I'll take out my engine. I'll do a quick sand of probably 600, 400 grit. Then I'm going to put my decals on. I'm going to shoot it with clear coat. Hopefully, weather permitting, I will, well, meaning temperature permitting, because I do have to shoot it outside this time of year. We're going to, oh, we didn't do the pipe. Got to drill a hole for the pipe. Well, we're going to have to wait for final assembly on that too, I think. No big deal. Totally forgot about that. But then hopefully tomorrow we will be able to do final assembly and chuck her in the water on Thursday. That's the plan. So, if weather permitting. So, let me know if you guys have any questions. Pretty simple build. Setup, I should say. Nothing to it. If you want to see more on the hardware aspect, assembling radio boxes and doing servos and things like that, watch the other build. One of the other builds, doesn't matter which one. This is just a quick fun build. I'm not going to go over all that stuff. I'm not going to do it twice. It's silly. Okay, so until next time, kids, keep dry side up.